How you doing?
Pretty good himself.
Very good. All right. First, I would like to explain myself. I'm with a group called Road Trip Nation. We're an organization of young adults who are trying to find our place in the world, in the workforce. And I'm going to ask you some basic questions, like, because for me, you're doing business that's relevant to what I want to do when I grow up. And, my first question to you, like, what were you doing when you were my age? I'm 17.
17. I was in the same place trying to find my way. I was actually got into with an investor, and I was actually got into the investment side of the field, which is flipping homes, buying property, and flipping it, putting it back in the market, and that's how I started.
So just with investments with housing or just housing?
Housing development.
Cool. What led you to your career choice?
I like what I did. I like what I wanted to be in the construction field.
Right. Was there any major influences?
Actually, yeah, investors, entrepreneurs that I met, and I wanted to become someone, to be honest. I wanted to be more than just the average regular Joe.
Right. You want to make your place in the world. Understandable. What were some major problems you had to deal with?
You're always going to have major problems regardless. I mean, even the most simplest job, people might assume or estimate it where it might be easy, and it's not. You're always going to run into some kind of problem depending on the situation. If the footage is wrong, if your blueprints are different from whatever the job site is, permit-wise. But remember this, there's always a solution for everything. Always try to be ahead of the game, and don't ever get discouraged. There's always a solution regardless of any situation, any problem. Keep calm, find a solution. Simple as that, and keep moving forward.
Well, what personal challenges did you have to overcome?
Growing up, I always had to overcome since I was the youngest. Entrepreneur or construction worker, trying to prove myself to the engineers, trying to prove myself to the contractors, trying to prove myself to the foremen. And I guess to me that was the biggest challenge, is trying to prove myself that I was worthy of overcoming situations in the job field, proving myself that I can handle whatever obstacles, problems, delays that the construction field would actually present itself to me.
Did were the people like the engineers or the foremen in the job, were they intimidating in any way?
Oh yeah, they're always like. I mean, and it's part of the whole construction industry. When you start, you're at the bottom of the pole, a grunt, should I say? And they're always going to be intimidated, but they have to be like that in order for them to know if it's something that you have a passion, that you're going to stick it out no matter what. And they have to separate you from every other person out there as well, making sure that it's something that you are going to be able to handle and something that you won't be able to like, regardless of the situation. Be in control. Right. So it's part of the whole gig. They're always going to be intimidating, and there's some that are going to be worse than others, to be honest.
Right.
But nothing personal, just part of the job force. Because the job, here's the thing, they have their position, their responsibility to complete that certain project. So no matter what, that project needs to get completed and needs to move forward for a completion date and time. So if they give you a hard time, don't take it personal. It's part of the work.
It's just business.
Just business, nothing personal.
Right. And I had another question. When you were doing a lot of the construction, did like the foreman, construction manager, did they approach you like as if you were an equal or as if you were lesser?
Um, it all depends. You know what I mean? To be honest, in the real world, there's some that are going to consider you as lesser. You know what I mean? And some that are actually going to be considered you equal as a human being. But in the job field, there's some that are going to be, they are going to put you in that category of the grunt. You know what I mean? But like I said, don't ever take nothing personal. Nothing is ever personal.
Right.
And if it is, blow it by and just continue moving forward. You know what you want to do. You know what you want to become. Just continue moving forward, regardless of anybody that's trying to stop you or anything like that, or intimidate you, or try to treat you less than what you are. Don't ever take it personal. Always prove yourself worthy enough to yourself, because you know.
Right. How have some of the experiences that you've had over your career, how did that influence some of the choices that you made? Like, give me like an example of one time where something happened and that influenced a decision, a really tough decision that you would try to make.
Actually, I could say maybe about a year ago, we were actually doing a solar installation install, and on the engineering plans that we actually had on the blueprints were completely different from the grid or on the job site that we were at. And on that one, since there's already permits involved, you cannot change. You can modify it, but always make sure that your supervisor or his supervisor gives you the okay to change whatever you have on the plans to whatever it's on the actual field.
Right.
Simple as that. So like that, you cover your tracks and you cover everybody else's tracks, because there's going to be, and it always happens, there's going to be changes on the plans, always. And whatever you have here stamped, is you won't run into obstacles on the field that, for example, if you're doing a footing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A garden wall or a block walls, whatever you have on the field to whatever you have in the prints is going to be completely different. I mean, you could run into cement down there where it doesn't let you trench enough down enough to 8 inches or 12 inches or 24 inches to what the prints or the blueprints are actually requiring by code or city code. So all you have to do is try your best. Try your best and make sure you complete it and follow what the blueprints suggest. If the blueprints are completely different and there's no way around whatever the blueprints and the blueprint needs to be modified, make sure you have an okay from your supervisor. So like that you don't run into any problems or city problems or anything like that, because at least you covered it with your supervisor, you made it a modification, write it on the notes, write it on the blueprints, changes, and make sure you take it back to the city to modify it.
So there's very little margin for error.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is what I would expect from this sort of career path.
But there's always a solution. Don't ever be close-minded. Don't ever think that, get stressed out enough where you're like, oh man. Don't ever do that. Just always keep calm and always find a solution. There's always solutions to every problem, any situation. Remember, there's just delays.
Right.
Just because you couldn't get it done that day because of problems or situation that occurred with the plans or on the field, don't ever assume that it's a dead shot, that's it. No, it's just a delay. Find a solution and tackle it another day. Simple as that.
So as a young adolescent preparing to go into the workforce, are there any certain steps that you would recommend to me for getting into the career path that you've been following?
Hands-on experience. Hands-on, that's it.
Right.
Whatever. Once you turn 18, get into an apprentice program. It could be an apprentice electrician, construction, framer. You're going into the what, engineering and architectural?
Yes.
Okay, then perfect. Learn as much, actually, yeah, learn as much as you could in every aspect of every job title that there is in the construction field. Framer, um, cement, drywall, block, everything, plumbing, and every obstacle. So like that, you know, as a hands-on experienced architectural or architect, you know what you actually want to put on your plans in order to draw blueprints. Because whatever you learn on book, should I say, or in classes, is going to be completely different from what's on the job field.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So make sure, as an architect, make sure you have construction experience. You know what I mean? Because it's not the same. It's like getting your real estate license.
Yeah.
Whatever you learn in class is going to be completely different on the field.
Right.
Because remember this, code enforcements or what could I say, blueprints for city codes are always going to change. So you always have to, you're never going to stop learning. Doesn't matter how many years experience you have, there's always going to be laws and rules that always going to change. Make sure you always follow with that. Make sure you always stay in school. Make sure you always, every year, make sure you update yourself on information of rules, of code enforcement that have changed during the years, so you always be on top of the game.
Right.
Make sure you be more than just the average Joe, or more than just the average architectural that just has knowledge on book but no field experience whatsoever. Because here's the thing, when you go do your prints, they're going to present you with a sketch or what you call a pre-drawing or whatever they want you to draw up and put it as blueprints.
Right.
Make sure you go to the field. Make sure you take your own measurement. Make sure you know what you're looking at. Make sure you are aware of what's out there. So like that, you could actually give them the best blueprints out there. You know what I mean? Make sure you put measurements. Make sure you put everything that you see. Because here's the problem that we ran into on the field with our other architects as I was learning the architectural field as well. When we were actually have blueprints that we're seeing before we got to the job site, okay, we look at the structure of the property. So let's just say we're doing a solar system installation. You have vents, you have plumbing. Some properties will have pool solar. And on the plans, some of the architectural guys weren't putting that. They weren't putting air vents that were out there. And the plants, or wherever the plants were at, they were actually on top of the air conditioning system. And the architecture won't put in none of that, letting us know that ahead of time, that look guys, there's a air vent up there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what we had to do, we had to modify and modify our plans and complete the job regardless. And that would delay the job, because then we had to go back to the city and modify it.
Right.
And just because the architectural or the engineer guy wasn't paying attention, or he wasn't putting everything that was up there. He was just getting a set of plans that the company or the client was actually giving him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So just make sure you put yourself on the field and get as much as hands-on experience as much as you could, to be honest, because it will only make you stronger for the job.
Yeah.
Stronger and then better.
Right. Well, nowadays, I've noticed, because, you know, in our class we're doing resumes and learning about how to present ourselves to employers. As far as, like, in your field, like, when you were first getting into it, was it more about your presentation of yourself, or was it more about how skillful you were? Or was it like a little bit of both?
It was more presentation.
Presentation.
But nowadays, It doesn't matter. It does matter how you look, how you present yourself. But what you gonna get their attention is on your experience and on your free will to want to learn, to show them that you're dedicated, show them that you want to be the best, and you will be the best. And time, always be there on time. Either be there 15 minutes early or never be late.
So, like, basically, you want to be dependable.
Dependable, yes. Because nowadays there's a lot of people, to be honest, that are not dependable.
Right. That is actually something that.
And don't ever make too much excuses.
Right.
And always be honest.
Yeah.
Always be honest. You know what I mean? If you're running late because of traffic, let them know 30 minutes, 45 minutes before. Don't call them 5 minutes before you get there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Make sure you plan it ahead so like that they have a heads up also, and they know, oh, okay, you know what, he let me know ahead of time, then I have time to do this.
Right.
And he could call his other appointments and let them know, hey, I'm running late because one of my apprentices or one of my clients is running late.
Right.
So they can also prepare themselves.
Right. Right. Because yeah, because it's in school right now we're learning about a lot about like have a strong work ethic, be very dependable, reliable, honest, have integrity, a lot of stuff that employers are looking for nowadays. But what I wanted to know is that like on our resumes, like how much of that would you like how would I say embellish? It's like how